Top 10 countdown today. And today it's all about those thinking errors that sabotage a relationship.
There is something that you say all the time. You tell people,
really?
You tell my kids. Oh, there's a lot of things you say all the time. But the one I'm thinking about is that you often say, you're never wrong about how you feel.
Right, I believe that.
And that is so important. But I think there's a further part, a second part to that conversation, of that statement that you often go into, but not all the time. And that is, your feelings are always attached to your thoughts. And that's why you're not wrong about how you feel. You're thinking one way, and that's created an emotion, a feeling.
Yes, right? It's a cause and effect. You're not wrong about how you feel. How you feel
because
is 100% consistent with the way you're thinking.
So if you want to feel differently, if you don't like the way you're feeling about something, we have to be open to going back and really figuring out what the thought is that we have and being willing to maybe change it.
We are going to act from our thoughts or our beliefs. When we stop to take a look at our thoughts and beliefs, it puts us in a position of choice.
Right. So today, that's what we're going to talk about, is some of these thoughts that we might not even realize that we are having or we're committed to in our mind. And then once we become aware of them, we have a better chance of maybe restructuring it and choosing a different thought so that we can have a different emotion, which will then lead to different actions.
Beautiful. So as we get into this list, you probably are thinking from some of these thoughts. We're not here to tell you how to think. We don't have that kind of authority.
Well, we don't want to. You can think anything you want.
Yes.
However, we'd love to give you an opportunity to look at your thoughts and choose something different if you're not happy with your outcome.
So rather than thinking from the thought, you get to think about the thought and then see what you want to do with it.
Make a choice.
Number 10 on our countdown list. My partner is here to meet my needs.
You know, I don't even know if we recognize that as a thought, but I came across a thought generator. You know, Jody Moore, I've talked about her before, and she sent out some thoughts that she said, you don't have to think this, of course, but it might be something to consider. And I put those up on my wall. And one of them is that my husband isn't here to meet my needs. He's here for me to love, and I get to meet my needs. So I think choosing another thought. So just becoming aware of what your thought is. Is your husband really here to meet all your needs? Consider maybe he's here so that I have somebody to love.
This comes up a lot when I'm doing couple coaching, and it's embedded in what people tell me. My needs aren't being met.
Yeah.
And the underlying assumption is, and that
he's
person
not doing them.
Is not meeting. Right.
Right. Number 9 is everything would be better if my partner would just
fill in the blanks. You know why this one is such a trip up? Because it's true.
Right. Things would be better if he would just pick up after himself. Or if he would just load the dishes every time he eats.
This relationship would be better if your spouse would shape up. That is true.
But think about it. That's a thought, right? And what does that usually lead you to? Irritation. That's usually the feeling that comes, or the emotion that is resulted from that kind of a thought. So we're not saying you can't think that, or that you shouldn't think that. We're just saying, be aware of what feeling that's generating. Do you like that?
It creates a predictable response, too. You think about how your spouse will feel, or your partner in this relationship, when you're thinking, oh, this would be so much better if you would shape up. They're going to predictably feel criticized, attacked. And the defenses will come up. And that's sometimes how you can identify that it's happened. The number 8 thinking error. My partner always...
fill in the blank.
Right. The word itself, always, is a trigger.
I catch myself with this one a lot. I just realized that I need to avoid that statement even, this always, you always. Because even if I'm saying and I don't mean it, it's obviously in my thought pattern. And that generally leads me to this feeling of isolation, irritation, whatever.
We already have a little bit of destructive pride that has us knowing that we're right. When we use the word always, Think about what that means.
Yeah.
Always is always inaccurate.
Every time.
Okay, I know I used the word twice in that sentence, but notice that that's probably true. There are very few things that are always true about your spouse. It leads us right into number 7.
My partner never.
Same problem.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Same problem. Same inaccuracies. It never is never accurate.
Right. You often talk about, and go back if you haven't listened to all of these things, but we talk about what is. So if you state rather, you didn't call me and tell me you were going to be late. Mm-hmm. Okay. So saying, you never tell me when you're not coming home. You never tell me you're staying late. There's a very different.
Just hearing that, that triggers.
It's just a feeling, right? And so I think one of the tricky parts is in your mind, just being able to separate the situation versus the thought about the situation. He didn't call.
Right.
Versus, he never calls. Right.
Big difference, and it has a big impact on the relationship. Mm-hmm. Again, we're not here to tell you how to think.
Right.
Just notice it. And if you're coming from that thought, it will be different from you thinking about that thought. Thinking error number 6 is very closely related to the 2 that we just talked about. I'm the one who... All right.
I'm kind of chuckling because I sort of got stuck in this one yesterday.
Oh, did
you? Do you remember our little conversation?
Little disclosure from Dr. Paul and Vicki.
Which was kind of putting me into this situation where I wasn't being supported. But it wasn't true. But that's where I went with my thought. Because it was my thought.
And the corollary, obviously, is... And you're the one who...
Right.
Rarely in a relationship is it that bipolar.
Right.
All right? Everybody has strengths. Everybody has weaknesses. When we say those phrases, it's usually because, first of all, we're thinking those phrases, and that's where the thinking error comes in. It's also because sometimes we're frustrated about what's going on. So just be aware of it. Raise the awareness to, I wonder if I'm coming from that thought, or can I just think about it?
Okay,
I do too.
Here's full disclosure. This is another one that I get stuck in a lot of the times.
Number 5, you mean?
Yes, number 5. My partner thinks. I get in trouble sometimes because I tell you what you think. My partner thinks this or thinks this about situations. And that
triggers me.
Right, triggers you, but it causes me to feel a certain way, a judged way. And I don't even know if that's really where it's coming from, And so just recognizing that I am going with the thought process, the conviction that I already know what he's thinking.
Here's the truth. You don't know what your partner is thinking. Even if they tell you, you know what they told you, but you still don't really know what they're thinking. Coming from a place of, my partner thinks this, my partner does that, you're projecting onto them something that you're already upset about, and it may not have any resemblance to what they actually think or where they're actually coming from. And Vicki, I do it too.
I know.
We are vulnerable to this as human beings. And again, we're not telling you how to think. Just notice it. Number 4 came up from years of experience that I've had working with couples who are on the verge of separation or divorce. And I hear this phrase, I can't go on living like this. And it's not true. Now, I understand the sentiment and I appreciate the feeling. I can't go on living like this is a lie. And I confronted one of my clients recently about this as she shared with me, I can't go on living like this, as she was considering separating from her husband. And the confrontation sounded like, no, I think you can. That kind of got her fired up a little bit. But the evidence of that was she had been living like this for 20 years. Could she go on? Why, yes, she could. Right. Now, she may not want to. She may want to change some things. Obviously, she wants to change some things. The thought, I can't go on living like this, limits your possibilities and your options, and it creates what I call a victim mentality, where people get stuck in their own thinking.
It's so tricky because many of these thoughts bring up such a strong emotion.
Yes,
you know?
they do.
And it is okay. You can keep thinking that thought if you'd like to. But sometimes you need somebody else.
Wait,
Well, you get to choose.
but I don't want to. That's
you may
different.
Not, right. There's a difference. And you know what? Sometimes it's okay. Sometimes we want to be sad for a while. So go ahead and think that thought that is causing you to be sad.
Right.
If you're wanting to change it and you're not sure what even your thought is that's causing the emotion or how you would change it, what could be a replacement thought you could work on, go ahead and get some help from somebody else. Somebody you trust, maybe hire a coach. Look into our programs that can help you find some alternate thought patterns.
You might be thinking at this point, okay, so I really just need to change how I think.
And there's another thought pattern.
Or not.
Right.
We're not saying that you have to change it. As you notice it, you might think, that doesn't serve me well. Is there another way to think about this? And almost always there's another way to think about this. Mm-hmm. Let's go on to number 3 in our list of thinking errors. You know what? We call them thinking errors. They're just thoughts.
Right.
They may not be errors as much as alternatives that may not serve you well.
Yeah. Just be open to the idea that, is this thought serving me?
And number 3 is, we can't because, or I can't because. Look, when we declare that we can't, our mind is going to try to look for all of the reasons why we're right about that. Mm-hmm. It's called confirmation bias. It's a psychological process where we look for and find and sometimes create evidence that we're right about that thought. It doesn't mean that we're right. It simply means that that's what our mind is currently supporting.
You know, I saw something at school, I'm trying to remember, I think it was a poster in the school that I was at one time that it often said, I haven't done that yet. I haven't figured it out yet. And sometimes if you, rather than go, we can't because, it might be, we haven't done that yet, or I'm still working out how to accomplish something. You know, those are some alternate thought patterns you might want to add. Just adding that word yet can really open your mind up to something more and reduce the desperation or the discouragement that comes with a belief.
Right.
I can't do that yet.
It's also helpful maybe to add the word how. Instead of I can't, ask how can I?
Right.
We can't afford that versus how can we afford that? Mm-hmm. Do you see how it changes the energy? It takes your mind in a completely different direction. Both are legitimate options. Choose what serves you well.
Well, and the answer might still be the same. You know, maybe you want to go on a whole family vacation to Disney World, right? And you say, we can't afford it. And that thought pattern creates a certain emotion.
Right.
Even if the answer is still, what if you say, how can we go to Disneyland or Disney World as a whole family? And it might be that we give up this and we give up this and then we give up this so we have the money. And you might still choose not to go to Disney World. But now you're in another place so that the thought isn't this, it doesn't create this emotion of deprivation, but of choice.
Right.
Number 2, I'm already doing my half.
Your half.
Right. This goes back to something you talk to couples all the time about. 50-50 isn't going to cut it. Well,
that's a common mentality, though. It's a 50-50 proposition. You do your half, I'll do my half. But honestly, I know I'm already doing more than half. Right? I mean, that thinking gets in there. In my experience working with couples, it's not a 50-50 thing. Mm-hmm. I talk to couples about 95-5. Where you personally get to do 95%. It's just an option. You don't have to think this way. But what if I am thinking, you know what? I'm responsible for 95% of this. I'm going to expect about 5% from Vicky. I can guarantee you she's doing a whole lot more than 5%. Right? But if that's my expectation, then we've got plenty. And I'm really pleased with her contributions. And she's thinking the same thing. Look, I'm 95% responsible for this. I'm going to expect about 5% from Paul. And anybody with a pulse can do 5%. So that's easy for me, right? But the mentality changes your position. And instead of feeling deprived or like you're being cheated, you've got a lot more workable arrangement now. Let me give you context for number 1 on our list today. I was meeting with a couple where as she slipped out of the room to take care of something, he told me, I just don't love her anymore, Doc. Oh, I almost came unglued on him. Because my initial response was, well, then love her, duh. Because I look at love as a choice, not as a feeling. I think it creates feelings, but it's really a choice. It's a promise. It's a commitment. It's a declaration. And you get to choose that. I think when we look at love as simply a feeling, we're only focusing on the results of something that we can freely choose.
Mm-hmm. So that kind of sounds like you're telling him it's wrong to be thinking that.
Oh, yeah, it did kind of sound that way, didn't it? I do have strong opinions about this.
Right.
And thank you, because I think sometimes I present it in a way as, you're wrong for thinking that. So let me back up on that just a little bit. I don't think you're ever wrong about how you feel. How you feel is 100% consistent with the way you're thinking. So I think what I was trying to do is invite him to take a look at his thinking about love and what that means.
Because that declaration within your mind as a thought, I don't love her anymore. You're declaring, I don't love her anymore. And so that's going to bring out the emotions of not loving her, and the actions will follow. You don't do loving acts towards her. So if you want to be able to change that, then I love her, and this is how I'm going to show up.
Remember, in the title of this particular video, these are thinking errors, we've already addressed that sabotage a relationship. To have a healthy, loving relationship, does it serve you well to say, I just don't love her anymore? Yeah. And that's a good question to ask. Right. Not that whether it's right or wrong, but simply, does this serve me well?
And does this serve our relationship? Because really, we talked about these are sabotaging the relationship. I want this relationship to succeed. Maybe that's one of your thoughts that you're going to adopt, right? And then find other thoughts that are leading you away from that result that you were hoping for, that you're living for, that you're working for, and choose some other thoughts if you'd like to.
As we've wrapped up this list, this top 10 list of these thinking errors that sabotage a relationship, another tool that I'd love to just throw out there to you is to ask the question, where would I be without this thought? And what other thoughts might serve me better? Just being open to that question, I think, puts us in a position of power and in a place where we can really move our relationships forward in some really cool ways. You may not be aware that we're offering all kinds of support and services for relationships. Come on over to Live on Purpose Central. It's at drpauljenkins.com, drpauljenkins.com. We're here to support you. I think you're going to love this community.
In the street alone.